Oh, that's interesting. It's not letting me live Zoom. No. Okay, there. We're up and running. We are live streaming. We are recording. We are all here. At least some of us are here both mentally and physically, myself not included. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our March public event. We are going to be doing a countdown to Earth Hour 2026, which is coming up this coming Saturday. Earth Hour, of course, is when we do a lot of different events to highlight the need for dark skies. And this is part of what we are trying to do here tonight, is we have our wonderful RASC Montreal execs, as well as students from John Abbott, that are going to be sharing a few different aspects of dark skies, why they're important, how we can try to protect them, and how to make use of those occasional moments of dark skies when you travel. As always, we start with a land and sky acknowledgement that we are in the Montreal area on the unceded Indigenous lands of the Anishinaabe as well as the Kanakahage. We also share the night sky with all of the First Nations as well as the ancient cultures from across the world. And one way to do that is to look at what lunar cycle we are on and how it connects with nature around us. So we just passed the new moon and we are currently in the waxing crescent. And there's been some incredible pictures online of individuals catching that sliver of a waxing crescent with Venus nearby over the first couple of nights of this lunar month. This lunar month being the one that happens right around the vernal equinox, just after, we refer to as the pink moon, which refers to specific sets of flowers that have a very pink hue that start to blossom at the start of spring. We also call it the springtime. And the Mi'kmaq of the East Coast referred to this as the maple sugar time. And we've been seeing some incredible maple sugar and maple products on the shelves. Being that we love looking up at the night sky, we'd also like to kind of see what's coming up and what we can enjoy. And this Wednesday, with the first quarter moon happening kind of in the late afternoon, it's up, but the sun is still up. So it'd be a little bit hard, but if you have a clear sky and you get out and you image that first quarter moon just before it hits sunset, you have a chance to see some of those lunar pareidolia, those shapes that our eyes make out. And these are specifically along the terminator, the letters. You have the lunar X, you have the lunar V, the L and the E, and X, L, V, E. If you had an O in there, you could just spell love and it would be hearts and kisses. And thankfully, with the number of craters on the moon, you can take your pick of which O you want to try to represent. When we talk about the night sky and sharing it with the ancient cultures, one of the things that is kind of thematic today is we see an urban sky for most of us. So we don't get to see all of the stars that are out there. The First Nations had a much nicer, much clearer view of the night sky after sunset. And so if you look at the northern circumpolar stars and the legends of the Fisher who bring summer back, and right now Fisher has just broken in and started to bring summer back to Turtle Island, that fatal wound, that arrow that strikes Fisher at his tail, always strikes at the point where there is a visible double star. Now, for us, when we go to the Morgan Arboretum with the RASC Montreal Center, if you look really closely and your eyes are sharp enough, you might be able to see that it's a double. In binoculars, small telescope, or even your smartphone camera, you can get that double star. In the city, it's kind of hard to even find the Big Dipper. And so we lose track of those stories and what they are trying to hand down from generation to generation of what is happening in nature. Now, our RASC tries to maintain a little bit of this knowledge and share it across the entire country. We're one of the largest organizations of our type with 4,000 plus members. And because part of our mandate is education and outreach, we tend to attract not just amateurs from all different walks of life, but also some educators and some professional members. And today we actually have, we have students from the local CEGEP. We have a professor in business who has his background in physics and engineering. And so we do get educators and even some professional astronomers participating in some of our RASC events. At our Montreal Center, we are lucky to have access to the darkest skies on the island, which are at the Morgan Arboretum. We also have a dark sky site that will be opening up in about a month or so down near the US border, where we will go hopefully once a month if weather allows. We have clubhouses that are sometimes held at John Abbott, sometimes they're held at the Morgan Arboretum beside our Bellevue Observatory, and sometimes on Zoom. Our astronomy collection is at John Abbott, and we also have this wonderful newsletter that Jerry, who's on with us today, puts out 6 times a year. And I highly encourage anybody who has an interest in astronomy, space, the cosmos, or even rocketry and space exploration to come out to some of our RASC Montreal events. So what events do we have? Upcoming for members, we have a Zoom Clubhouse this Wednesday where Nicole, our members liaison, who's on with us tonight, she's going to talk about some of the April night sky highlights. We have a library night the following Wednesday. We have clubhouses at the Arboretum on most Saturdays and the occasional Wednesday, and those will pick up as the weather starts to turn nicer. And David, our VP, has been organizing a set of astrophotography workshops where you can be in person in our library at John Abbott or join by Zoom. And for public events in April, we're going to have 2. On the Wednesday, the 22nd, we have a meteor shower night for the Lyrids, and that's going to be at the Morgan Arboretum. And then this one's exciting. We're going to be putting out more and more details over the next month, but we are hosting at John Abbott College with the Jack Space Club and RASC Montreal. We will have a telescope clinic so that members of the public, members of our society, students, they can bring their equipment from home and get some help on how to use it. And we also will have our annual swap sale, what we're calling the Astro Garage sale at the moment, but it will be opened to the public as well. So you can, if you're looking for a good deal on some used equipment, some space-themed paraphernalia, you can come out on Saturday, April 25th for International Astronomy Day. But today is really all about dark skies. And it's really important for us in the spring for a couple of reasons. One is Earth Hour gives us a chance to share this with other sciences, with individuals who study other parts of nature, who have an interest in trying to share a little bit of why dark skies are important. But also because the spring night sky gives astronomers the opportunity to look for some incredible deep sky objects, which we call the Messier catalog after Charles Messier. And over the next month, there will be individuals from our club that will be trying to do a run through of the catalog. And there's a observation certificate available for the Messier objects. And it's amazing to see some of the phenomena that we can capture, even with the relatively bad urban skies, if we know where to go out, how to block out the light. But it's really tougher than it should be. And that brings us to the first segment tonight, which is going to be our Dark Sky Light Pollution Abatement Subcommittee that we have just started out again in RASC Montreal. So I'm going to bring on one of our directors, Michael, as well as one of our John Abbott students, Olivia, and they're going to share a little bit about the importance of dark skies. So Michael and Olivia, over to you.
So first thing we'll do is we'll get the PowerPoint up. Olivia, are you going to put that up or should I?
I can put that up for the first part, and then I'll pass it over to you.
Wonderful.
Okay. Actually, you could even keep it on your end and I could just go next slide or whatever. It might be faster.
Sure. Is my screen good?
I have to go to the slide. Perfect.
Okay. So today I want to start off by presenting a famous event that many of you might know. In 1994, Los Angeles got hit with a pretty big earthquake, and this caused a citywide power outage. And through the commotion, a lot of the residents woke up and they decided to, figure out what was going on. And upon exiting their house, they saw this huge silver cloud, and a lot of the residents felt very scared, but also mesmerized. So there were a lot of 911 phone calls and also certain calls to the observatories to ask, what was going on and what was in the sky. So turns out what they saw was the Milky Way. And I just found that story, kind of insane because there was actually a study published that nearly two-thirds of the entire Earth's population has never seen the Milky Way, with their own eyes. And I feel like we've been really robbed of that. So this is why, it's an important topic. And for the Canadian version of the robbing of seeing the night sky, we have over 99% of the Canadian population that lives in an area that's affected by light pollution. So we never really get the chance to see the beauty of astronomy, and I think that's why it's important to talk about the importance and the impact of light pollution, so we can appreciate the night sky. Over here, we have an image of Los Angeles in 1908 and in 2017. And you can see the degradation of light pollution throughout the years. So one thing I'm going to talk about is the biology of, all the wildlife on Earth and us humans, and the fact that our evolutionary instincts can't keep up with our technological advancement. So there's a few different types of light pollution. The first one is light clutter, and it's defined as the excessive and confusing bright groupings of artificial light sources. So I chose this image of Times Square from New York because there's so many ads and so many bright colors, and it's almost like all of them are all screaming for your attention. It's a little difficult to focus. So that's light clutter. There's also light trespass, which is an invasive type of light pollution, which essentially consists of light spills. So it could be, for example, the light from a neighboring property going into your own property, or, like street lamps going into forests and affecting wildlife. Next, we have glare, and glare is actually a visual sensation that humans and animals can feel. So if you take can anyone see my mouse? Okay, perfect. If you look at the light source, it's a perfect circle, and when there's glare to it, you can see that not only the light source but also its entourage is a little distorted in a way. So we can even see with this picture that, if the glare is not too big, the light source is, a fixed dot. And as the glare worsens, you can tell how the light source abstracts and the environment is completely covered by, the glare. There's also sky glow, which I think is an astronomer's worst nightmare, because it's the reason why we can't see the stars at night. And I found this one picture from National Geographic where you can see Salt Lake City from over 100 miles away, or if you're Canadian, around 160 kilometers away. And notice how the salt flats have nearly no lights. All of this is only caused by the sky glow from Salt Lake City. And on the bottom over here, you can tell that cities tend to create a kind of bubble of light that travels not only within the city, but also into like the upper atmosphere. So now I want to talk about the effects of light pollution. It's a big problem because it affects wildlife and humans. So I already mentioned a bit that biology had a hard time keeping up with our technological advancement, and I want to give a little bit of a history lesson. So roughly 150 years ago, the first light bulb was created, and light pollution you can say that it was invented at the same time as the light bulb, but it wasn't a very common term because it wasn't studied very much. But around in the 1900s, we noticed that certain astronomers in Rome would report that it would be difficult to observe the skies because of surrounding light in the cities. And from then, it became more and more common to have that kind of obstacle for astronomers. And that's when light pollution became more popular as a term. So one of the effects of light pollution is the decline of insect populations. I'm sure most of you have seen insects just circling obsessively a light. And, this may just be a regular encounter, but the reality is actually quite sad because the insects exhibit a behavior called the vacuum cleaner effect. And it's basically when they are attracted to the light and they try to escape, but because of their natural instinct to go towards the light, because they use the moon to navigate, it acts as a false moon, and they're essentially attracted to the light over and over, and they're in this never-ending cycle until they die from exhaustion. And insects are on the bottom of the food chain, which means that their populations are essential for the equilibre of the entire ecosystem that they're a part of. So one of their predators are actually birds, and they're affecting bird populations because they're searching for food and there's not enough insects. But they're also affected by light pollution in another way. Birds tend to have a lot of collisions with buildings. And there was a study done by Dave Willard, who works in the bird industry within the Field Museum in Chicago, and he essentially circled around this building for 40 years, every migratory season, and he would collect all of these birds that would collide with the building. And some things that he noticed was a huge misconception that a lot of people think is birds usually collide with skyscrapers or very tall, large buildings, but that's actually not true. As you can see, this building is quite short, but the main reason why so many birds would collide with it is because of the light inside. So they would be attracted to the light inside of the building, and they would collide, and the impact would make them fall, and that would cause many bird population declines. And they also noticed that windows with very low lighting or high tint would have significantly less collisions than the ones with brightly lit windows. So I found this, well, actually, Michael showed me this illustration by Gary Larson, and it's basically making light a little bit of how biology can't keep up with our technology, and also how old people can't really adapt to changing times. So I'll read it out for you guys. Oh, this should be interesting. Looks as if your father has forgotten about the phenomenon of windows again. So in my opinion, I think this is kind of a representation of how, birds obviously can't adapt that quickly, but they're not intuitively, they don't know what windows are, and it's very difficult for them to adapt because this is, a relatively new thing, having light reflections and them confusing windows for walls. And I want to talk about how they also use the sun and other celestial bodies to navigate through their migratory journeys. And notice how over here, these are their migration routes. A lot of them pass by very big cities. Over here should be Montreal. And the illuminated cities would stop their migration process, and it would prevent them from breeding. And there would also be things within the city that would cause a higher bird mortality. So there would be introduced predators from humans like cats and dogs, but there would also be these sort of city oases that would give them a false sense of security, and they would just rest there until they would get stuck in the cities because of disorientation. There's also aquatic life that is affected by declining insect populations, because insects are actually very interlinked with the aquatic ecosystem. In fact, they spend a grand majority of their early life in the water. So if you take the mosquito, for example, you can see that they start off as a larva in the water until they emerge as a mosquito and do their business on land. So a decline of their populations can result in fish species not having enough food and their populations also declining. There was actually a study conducted by Franz Holker in the Institute of Freshwater Ecology and Inland Fisheries in Berlin, and they took these guppy fish, and they wanted to see what would happen if we put them in bright light when they were supposed to be resting, so at night. And what they noticed was they would take more risks. So they would come out of hiding more, and they would be more inclined to show themselves or to expose themselves to predators. And they think that the reason why they would do this is because of something called a spillover effect, where their daytime tendencies, where there would be less predators, would spill out into the nighttime because of lack of melatonin release, which would be the same sleepy hormone as those of humans. So the bright light would make it so that their circadian rhythm would be off track, and they would think that daytime would be basically a little longer than what it actually is. They did another study about the type of light and how much it can penetrate into the water. So on these graphs, notice how the blue light is the one that reaches the furthest down in the water. So not even aquatic life is safe from light pollution. And they did this same study, but on land, and they realized that blue wavelength light animals are a lot more susceptible to blue light than any other light. And their hypothesis was that in the daytime, the sun is the biggest emitter of blue light. And because of that, it scatters all around, and it's almost like an indicator of the daytime. So animals take blue light as, well, their bodies detect it and they consider it as daytime, and it makes them stay more awake and exhibit behaviors that they usually wouldn't at night. Lastly, they affect plants too, which might be surprising. So if you look at the two pictures over here on top, you can see that one portion of the tree is different from the others. So in the first top left corner picture, you can see that the leaves did not drop when the leaves beside the street lamp did not drop, whereas the rest of the tree did. And this was taken in very late autumn, so their leaves should have dropped. This was actually brought up by Sabine Frank in Fulda, Germany, and she's a dark sky coordinator. So she was walking around in the streets, and she noticed that, these trees looked strange, and it didn't look like something that would occur naturally, or at least something was going on. And she did some research into it, and she realized that these trees have been absorbing the street lamp night lights at night, and it would off track their capacity to know what time of the year it is. So more light usually means it's a hotter climate and it's, still summertime. But, because of artificial light, it was essentially tricking these trees into thinking it was still warm out and they could delay their shedding for another time. And this had a massive effect on their frost damage control, which made it so that a lot of trees in her city would just wither and sometimes die. So she brought this up with town hall, and they actually had this entire initiative where they would change all the street lamps and make sure that none of the wildlife and the plant life would be affected. And that's how Fugel in Germany became the first dark sky recognized city in Germany. That's it for my part. I'm going to pass the metaphorical mic to Michael.
Hi. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen, I guess. Hold on. Start it up here. Let's open the slideshow. Okay, I want to share the screen. Okay, I trust it's visible. Screen?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the next part of the presentation, we basically covered not only the human factor, astronomers and so on losing the night sky, but how it's affecting the whole planet, wildlife, and it's not just a problem for astronomers. It's a problem of conservation and preservation of our planet. So in the next part of the presentation, we would like to give an example of a success story in the endeavor to reduce unnecessary light pollution. And we're going to use a case study of Momagantic International Dark Sky Reserve, which was created in 2007. Okay, I'm just moving my control here out of the way. So as a lot of us know, Momagantic is located east of Montreal, about a 3-hour drive east as one goes towards Maine, about 60 kilometers or so east of Sherbrooke, and we see it at the bottom right part of the map here, well, actually, which is a satellite photo. And from this photo, it's very apparent that just looking at how dark that area is, that one would expect the skies to be reasonably dark, it being a telescope and an observatory. I'm going to advance to the next one. So this, of course, is a map which shows the Bortle classifications according to it's an overlay of an actual map, with the darker fuchsia colors being, of course, the highest level. And as we go out farther, if we go north of Montreal, it's fairly black and fairly dark, which is north of Mont Laurier. It's ideal. But even as we go east of Sherbrooke, we're still like kind of in the blue area, which is not perfect, but still much, much better than a lot of the other places we're used to around Montreal. And as some of you are, or maybe you're already familiar, there's the Bortle scale with 8 or 9 on the left being worst case, the center of the city, like in Montreal, for example. And as we go farther out into the suburbs, more and more stars are revealed because of the less less light pollution, to the Bortle scale 1 on the right, which is ideal conditions where one can see the Milky Way and even the dust clouds of the Milky Way with naked eye. It's named after an amateur astronomer whose name is John Bortle, and this classification system was created in 2001, so it's fairly recent, but it's a very useful tool in seeing the degree of light pollution around the world, because the map that I showed you, that website, you can zoom out just as you can in Google Earth, Google Maps, and you get a really good picture of what's going on around the world. So standing at the top of Momagantic, here's a picture of the light domes. This is basically probably a 180-degree view, but you see the largest dome is from Sherbrooke to the west, which is only 60 kilometers, but 60 kilometers is enough to be significant. So the effort has to be done to minimize light pollution, any excess light pollution in the immediate neighborhood of Montmegantic. Montmegantic rises about 800 meters above the plain. It's sort of an anomaly. It sits there as sort of an independent mountain, a lot like the other mountains like Mont Saint-Hilaire. It's the same type of geological formation. But being at where it is an excellent location to put a telescope. And I just want to talk a bit about that telescope. That is a 63-inch Ritchie Chrétien scope, which is a type of Cassegrain scope. It's the largest in Eastern Canada. So how do we deal with this? What are the measures that have been taken? The measures have been laid out by an organization which is the Dark Sky International. You can easily Google that, and you can see a whole list of goals and requirements. They're not laws, they're ideals that one could follow to reduce light pollution. And this is what the endeavor was taken up around Momagantic to create this dark sky reserve. We see, of course, different types of ways of using street lamps, the worst being on the left, where the street lamp like this just casts light in all directions. It's very bright. Most of the light is not needed because it pretty much more than half of it's just going up out into space and ends up, just obscuring the view for astronomers and birds and so on. And as we go to the right, we see the obvious solution would be to put a shade on top of the light so that much of the light is cast downwards. One could even do better, and if these are street lights or certain types of lights, they can be put on timers, not necessarily for public roads, but maybe for semi-private areas. So that would create opportunity for very late hours where we don't need those lights, where the light pollution levels could be reduced. And so there are 4 basic best lighting practices as laid out in the standards. One is orientation of the light, where the light is preferably, of course, oriented downward. The other is, very importantly, the color temperature. The color temperature should be below a maximum 2200 K, which is a kind of amber tone, and now available in certain LEDs, which wasn't available originally when LEDs came out, but now we have that option. The other being, of course, intensity. The light should be gauged appropriately for its need, and we've already touched on the idea of timing, where certain lights can be turned on and off at certain times. This is an illustration showing the practices taken around the Montmegantic Observatory, where limits are imposed based on the different types of uses of lighting. And without going into too much detail, we see there lighting that one would see above park areas, lighting for parking where you park cars. Even houses would have inside the house could be limited to 2200 K, because as you know, we have windows and the light will escape out the window, reflect off the ground, and everything contributes to light pollution. So the keeping of the light intensity lower, color temperature lower, and adding window shades, these are all good things to do. And there's more cases here shown where this is put down as a rule in the area, a regulation, a bylaw in the area in and around Momagantic, building entrances above barns, tennis courts, even absence of fully lit neon signs, where signs will be lit indirectly with downlights, as one can see over here in the corner. Moving on, other cases here. Oh, this pamphlet is also available online, and it gives more detailed information. We touched on housing as well. Of course, with Earth Hour approaching within 1 week, we kind of ideally would hope that turning off lights for 1 hour might create a situation where more and more stars are visible at night. Perhaps even we might, ideally we could see that. But it's all about small efforts and public education. That concludes my presentation this time.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Olivia. That was fantastic. I think we'll take a moment for 1 or 2 questions, if there are any, before we move on to adding in Russell. So, Michael, I'll get you to stop sharing, and we'll see if there's any questions in the audience.
Oh, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Russell.
I'm an NDG and I've got Lower Canada College 3 blocks from my house, and they've got this huge sports field and they never turn off the lights. Is there a way that the Dark Sky Association recommends to lobby them and hassle them until they turn off the lights?
There isn't. I mean, there is a possibility that we could write a letter and we could sign a petition. And I suppose I could get the support of local members of the Dark Sky Society to add credence to that. It's not necessary for the whole field to be lit up. I actually live down the street from there as well. So that's a major problem. And you're also getting light reflected off the surface. And even in winter, the surface, of course, is covered in snow. It's even worse. So there's no reason why that can't be addressed through a petition. I think that'd be a good idea. I'd be willing to do that.
Great.
Andy's asking in the chat if we can do the same type of thing with the airport. And I think responsible lighting and the differences in lighting in different organizations and different locations, what Michael was pointing out, that's the type of thing that we have to get a little bit more information, a little bit more communication out there.
I think
Definitely.
letting people know, the impacts of that also really helps, because if I'm aware, there's not a lot of people that know about light pollution unless you're interested in astronomy or things like that. So that's
Getting some of the wildlife groups on board, getting the Eco Museum, the Biodome, getting Biosphere, the researchers, getting them to help to make the case so that it's not just one group that's asking for this.
Yeah, I just have one comment, if I can.
Henry.
Okay. I guess you all remember, I guess a few months ago when Hydro cut the power to a good part of the West Island for basically an overnight upgrade of a substation, which was a good thing because we didn't lose power during the ice storm or pseudo ice storm a few weeks ago. So that was good. But I went out that night and just looked up, and I was just amazed what you could see. Just no street lights. And then on Facebook, a lot of other people were also just amazed. They went outside, and for the first time, they were able to see quite a few stars. Actually, too many stars. It was almost as good as Thompson Park.
Shades of 2020, 2020, 21 coming back, right?
Mhm.
So I think at that point, we will continue this discussion at the end of the event. Thank you again to Olivia and to Michael. This was wonderful. And I'm glad that we're live streaming this, because that means that it's on our YouTube channel, so we can go back to this, because the amount of examples and details that you gave and some of the resources that you have there, I think they're going to really help to plan out the next stages. Andy also commented that we need to re-educate people on what safety means, that there are many different ways to keep people safe without lighting the night. It is always an argument from municipalities when you have light pollution activists that, you know, we have to have safe areas and you have to be able to know who's around you. But the way in which responsible lighting is done is supposed to take safety into account. So let's continue this chat and also talk a little bit about the type of thing we want to have at our star parties and our public events in terms of visuals to remind people what they can do for themselves at home or in their neighborhoods or their HOAs and things they can discuss with them. So thanks again. And Russell, I think we're going to now turn it over to you to find out how it is that you can get so many incredible images with one backpack as you run from country to country to country.
Okay, I'll try my best. See if I can get this working. You see the slide?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thanks, Kareem. Thanks for the invitation. And yes, I've been on the road. I guess if I do a segue from our just prior discussion, so near where Michael lives, I guess a few months ago there was another power outage. One of the grids went off. So the minute I heard about that, I actually got my camera and my tripod and I ran over there because I knew it would be really dark, and it was. So okay, so let's get going here. Like you, this has been a terrible season for imaging from certainly from NDG. I took these pictures on and off. It's like sort of sucky. It's cold. It's snowy. I don't have to tell you. It's just not really good for taking astrophotos or even looking up in the night sky. I try a few times, and here's a picture of me and Kwa maybe last winter, freezing our butts off about -10 at Thompson Park, trying our best to get something. So it's a bit of a challenge. And Kareem, you mentioned that hopefully Woolly Woods will be going there sometime in the foreseeable future, or maybe Thompson Park. Looking forward to that. I can't wait. So over Christmas, my father, who is 86 years old, asked me to come with him to his regular spot in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. And I said, I can't go. I've got a life and a job and everything. And he said, pretty please. So I thought, there's sort of something interesting about Puerto Vallarta. Let me take a look. I will do some research. So the research I did was he said, well, it's going to be really warm. It's going to be 27 or 30 degrees. And I went, that's really nice. But what's really interesting is its latitude. It's only 20 degrees north above the equator. So I thought, that's sort of interesting. So, yep, I went down with him. My daughter came down and one of my sisters. So it was very nice. And what I'm going to say is everything I did I was able to put in my bag. And you may wonder, how big or small am I talking about? So I'll just switch this off for a second. I got the camera and there I am. Okay, so here's my travel bag. So if I go anywhere in the world for up to 3 weeks, I carry this in my little backpack. The only exception was New Zealand because I had to have hiking gear. But otherwise, this is it. So everything fits in here with all my clothes, toiletries, all that kind of stuff. And this is my backpack, 35-liter standard backpack. So that's what I carry wherever I go. So I'll go back here. All right. So this is what I carry, so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So welcome to Puerto Vallarta. I took this after landing. We got to our little condo place where my dad's been going for 25 years, and it's pretty nice. Yep. So there's some interesting things about Puerto Vallarta. So it's a coastal city. I'll take advantage of being it's on the west coast, so it faces the Pacific Ocean. It's mountainous. It's a town on a valley, and it's surrounded by mountains. There's palm trees and lots of bright colors. Went hiking on one of the mountains, and from a distance I could see the condo where we were staying. So I was there for 1 week. And this is the condo again. So my dad's been going here for more than 25 years, and there's lots of tourists. This town is very packed with Canadian tourists, and it's pretty exciting. I've never been there before, but on the roof, there's a pool and a deck. This is taken from their website, and it really looks like this. And of course, what's interesting, the pool's nice. It's just full of retired Canadians. So that's sort of less interesting. But the deck is nice because it has an uncluttered and unobstructed view almost completely all the way around. So I thought, what could I do? So on the second night, went up to one of these chairs and got a little table out here, and I put my cell phone up. It's just a standard cell phone, nothing big. I don't know if I can see it, show it, but it's just a standard cell phone. I set it to whatever the equivalent pro mode is. Maximum exposure 10 seconds, maximum ISO, put it on a table, push the button, and that's what I got. So it's like, even with your cell phone, I'm thinking these skies are pretty good, much better than NDG and much better than where I'm used to, even the Arbo. It's like, wow, all right. Oh, by the way, Puerto Vallarta is a city of about 200,000, but a lot of the sky is not cluttered with light because it's right over the ocean. So, I was pretty surprised. So, what did I use? And so I just took my camera. This is my camera. So it's a DSLR or a mirrorless. Use whatever you have. Don't worry about that. And I brought two lenses with me. The first one is a 12 millimeter. So it's very short focal length for very wide field. And it's optically very fast at f1.4. So I want to thank Kwa. I don't think he's on here, but I want to thank him because he told me at Christmas that one of the photography stores downtown was going out of business and they might have some deals. So I went down and they had this thing for like, wow, they were almost giving it away. There's no way I could afford this lens, but it was pretty good. And it's a very nice lens, but you don't need super fancy. With this lens and camera on a tripod with a 15-second exposure, I just aimed it straight south at night and I got this. And I looked at my star charts, my Stellarium and my Sky Safari on my phone, and that's Canopus, or Canopus. That's the second brightest star in the sky that we can never see. Like, oh, this is pretty interesting. The second lens I took was primarily for tourism and birds and nature and stuff. It's a compact telephoto, so it's 150 millimeter focal length max, and it's f4. So that's what I got. I didn't get, and with this is my setup. So this is on the pool deck that I showed earlier, and it's got my travel tripod, it's got my camera, it's got a lens, and it's got something else in between. And that is this thing. Well, this is, I don't know, you can't see this, can you? I don't want to see. So let's take a look. I'll stop sharing just for a second so you can see. This is my star tracker. So I've got the Star Adventurer one, but it's too big to fit in my bag when I want to make things simple. So I bought this in 2000 from a German company, and it's pretty. You just wind it up like that, and then you can hear it tick, and that's it.
How much does it weigh, Russell?
Pardon?
How much does it weigh?
No,
roughly, like
I don't know, a couple 100 grams, 200.
Wow.
I don't know. It's not very heavy. I don't know. A box of pasta. It's like a box of pasta. Very non-scientific. But and it's got a little polar scope. I didn't show that here. And you just line it up like, it's close enough. It's pretty good. So I don't worry about it too much. But it's easy to pack. Look at that. And no batteries. It has a temperature limit. So below -10, it gets stuck because gears get too sticky. But I was going south, so it should be okay. And tripod, it's just this. I just bought this tripod. It's like a basic one, and I just carry it and put it in the bag, and that's it. So that's what I got. Okay, so that's the weird thing. So I thought, that's pretty interesting. And here it is in action. So I was taking pictures at night, very excited. My father was going, "What are you doing up there for so long?" I would go up for 3 or 4 hours. It was really, really nice. And on the left, this is just me taking a picture of my camera on the tracker, on the tripod, tracking and taking pictures. And on the right, that's a close-up of the finder on the camera. And I think if you can make it out, you can see the 3 stars in Orion's belt, and just below the center, you can see the Orion Nebula, and that's a live image. So that's pretty good. What's the big interesting thing about going to Mexico, Puerto Vallarta? It's the 25-degree latitude difference. So what difference does that actually make when it comes to objects that we could actually have a chance at observing that we're imaging? And to give you an example, one morning I got up at 5 in the morning, went down to the bottom of the condo and asked the security guard, is it okay if I go out to the beach and take some astronomy pictures? And he looked at me like I was really crazy. I said, really, you want to do that? Yep, I got up just for this. He said, okay, just stay near the beach, but don't go too far. I said, okay. And when I was on the beach, there were people walking around, but they were people very drunk, very tired, just leaving the bars. 5 a.m. It's like, oh dear. All right, so to give an idea, I went to our friendly Stellarium, and this is what I would expect to see if I ever got up at 5 a.m. at home in NDG. And just to give an idea, here's the head of Scorpio. So Antares and all that stuff. And here's the same view in Puerto Vallarta. Where is Scorpio? Oh, it's way up there. Oh, yes, it's very, very nice. It is way up there. So what else can we see? I'll just zoom in towards the south here. It's the same view, but I just zoomed in a bit. And there's a lot. Centaurus A, Omega Centauri cluster. And at the bottom, you can see Crux and Rigel Centaurus. So that's Alpha Centaurus, Hadar, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'll just highlight these 3 things. Could I actually see these things on the beach? And here's a picture I took with a very optically fast f1.4 lens. This is a 15-second exposure, no real processing. I just took a picture. Anything recognizable? Yes, there is. So these are the things that I map with Stellarium. And just to give you a close-up view, there's Crux and Hadar and Omega Centauri. So of course they don't look, super amazing, but this is with the camera on a tripod at 5 a.m. No fancy stuff. So just go back again. There's lots to see. I wish I had a telescope with a tracker, like a bigger tracker, but I can't fit my Red Cat in all this stuff. It's too big. If I add the Red Cat and the Star Adventurer, it's too big. It takes too much space. But so it's okay. That's with no tracker. That's just a single picture. Another good thing I noticed was that, well, we're on the coast of the Pacific Ocean, so anything west or southwest, there's nothing in the way. Here's a setting sun. Everybody, all the tourists and us would stand on the beach and go, ooh, isn't this really interesting? And of course, I like the sun setting, but I even like more what the sky is going to look like after the sun has already set. So looking around, what do I see right over the horizon? Oh, Mercury and Saturn. Wow. That was pretty good. My daughter said, what's that big bright light? I think that's Mercury. And I thought she was joking. And I checked. Oh, she was smart. She knew it. She was right. Just over the horizon, over the ocean. Very clear view. Nothing in the way. It's really nice. My Sky Safari told me that there was a comet visible, C2024E1. And I went, okay. So I matched the stars as best I could. I took lots of pictures. And I couldn't find any comet. I think it was supposed to be magnitude 7. And I thought, wow, geez, I should be able to see something magnitude 7. And I couldn't find it anywhere. So maybe I made a mistake, but it took me an hour and I just kept on looking. But that was a bit of a disappointment. I thought, hopefully I could see a comet, but the answer was no. So what kind of pictures can you take with this simple equipment? Nothing too fancy. It's not high tech. You just use the camera that you have that you would normally take on vacation. You put it on a tripod. And if you have a tracker, that's great. If you don't worry. So here's some that I took with the tracker and my 150 millimeter lens. So on the left is an exposure. So these are multiple exposures that I stacked and aligned and did quick, very simple processing in PixInsight, or you could use it in Siril or GIMP, same thing. And then I did plate solving with PixInsight. And for me, it was like, I can see the whole Canis Major, even the little paws. at the back. So I thought that's pretty good. And then another one is Puppis. Well, we normally can see the top of Puppis, but can't really see the bottom of Puppis. And then I just matched it over here with the plate solving. It's to minus 45 degrees or even lower. So I thought, oh, this is pretty interesting. And again, these pictures aren't like super fantastic. They're not, they're not Mark Ricard quality, that's for sure. But they're good enough. I said, okay, I can recognize things. When Canis, if I go back to Canis Major, and I can see, I can see M41 pretty clearly, and here's Sirius, and you can see the back feet and all. It's pretty nice. It's like I was pretty happy. So I did one. I was serious. I did like 45 minutes. I actually sat for about an hour just taking pictures with the tracker of Orion. And the reason why I did it, we can normally see it at home, of course, but in Puerto Vallarta, it's almost at the zenith. So that means there's less atmosphere in the way. There's less light pollution than at home for me. So I should get a better, clearer picture. And I did. So for me, this is my default processing method. I took 30-second images with a wind-up tracker, focal length of 150 millimeters. I calibrated with flats that I just made from a cell phone with a bright screen. And then I used PixInsight, but you could use Cyril or GIMP, the same stuff. And this is the kind of picture I would get. So my conclusion here is it works, but in the hydrogen alpha emissions, like the Barnard's Loop and the Horsehead Nebula and stuff, it's very, very faint, even after 45-minute exposure. So although my camera is great for nature and birds and travel and stuff, it can take pretty good pictures of stars and stuff, but not so well when it comes to hydrogen alpha. And I'm not getting it modified. No way. My camera had a surprise feature that I didn't know about until I started reading the book. And this is something they called handheld high resolution. It's like, okay, what is this? So it's a micro four thirds chip sensor. So it's a very small sensor compared to full frame, but it has this ability to shift pictures. It takes 12 pictures very, very fast automatically. You don't even see it happening. And it creates a 50 megapixel image. And that it's recommended for maybe high resolution, like landscape pictures, for instance. But someone on the internet, on the YouTube, suggested you could use this for stars. And the reason why is because when you line 12 images of the same thing, and it will do all the stacking inside the camera, you improve resolution, and you also lower the signal to noise ratio by lowering the noise. It's like, okay. I tried many times in NDG. I tried also at the Arbo, and I didn't try it at Thompson, but I tried it at the Arbo, and I tried it at one place outside the city, and I couldn't get it to work. So I was like, okay, maybe it doesn't really work. At the top of near the pool, at the top on the roof of this condo, I said, oh, I'll try it again. And it worked. So, whoa. So I was very happy. So what is this? I set my camera to an exposure of 4 seconds, set the camera to this special mode, pushed the shutter once, and it did everything else. And then poof, after, quite a while, I don't know, it's 48 seconds, maybe a minute, it came up with this picture. I thought, oh, this is pretty nice. So I was very happy. And I liked it. It was very, very clear. So that's I'm going to say goodbye to Puerto Vallarta at this point. I was with my father for about a week. He was pretty happy. I flew home, and I was at home for 2 days, and then it was time for my trip with my wife to celebrate our wedding anniversary. And we had planned this long, long ago. And for this trip, we flew to Edmonton, which is at 53 degrees north. And then from Edmonton, we took a rental car all the way down the Red Line, all the way to Lake Louise, which is in the middle of the Rockies. And this is where, close to where we had our honeymoon 30 years ago. So we thought we would like to go back. And Lake Louise, is it a dark place? So there are some places, but it's pretty dark. So for the theme for this presentation, yeah, it's pretty dark. So here's me stepping outside, maybe 300 meters from where we were staying in the middle of the village of Lake Louise. And I just put my camera on the tripod and took a 10-second shot and it's almost a first quarter moon from the right. Can't see it, but you can see the moonlight reflecting off of Mount Fairview in the distance. And I thought, oh, this is very nice and dark. Where we stayed was at the youth hostel and the Alpine Club, where we always stay. It's very cute, very nice. And at night, I just took my camera and tripod around and started looking at taking pictures. So it was, oh, there's the moon. That's pretty good. Walked around some of the forest, aimed up. So there's no fancy processing. It's just aim up, get the right exposure, and take a picture. So these trees are very, very high. They're all red cedars. They're really, really nice. I eventually found a clearing. This is inside Lake Louise Village, but just at the edge. And I started looking up, and these are all 15-second exposures. And with very light processing just to increase contrast. But it's like, okay, so if I can do this, your camera can do something similar. And maybe a little bit better or a bit worse, but you can do the same thing. So if you start aiming your camera and putting on a tripod in a dark enough sky like this, you can see quite a bit. It's like, ooh, this is pretty nice. Going somewhere else. So I just looked at a different direction and I went, ooh, there's Gemini. So there's Castor and Pollux, and then there's Jupiter. It's like, ooh, it's pretty nice. So again, I just darkened the sky, but it's like not much processing. Here's one that I did process. So I took 40 shots at 13 seconds and ISO 3200, which is pretty high. I did my cell phone flats and a little bit of processing to make it a little bit darker, and that's it. And it's like, oh, this is pretty good. And then, of course, I wanted to see if this special little feature in the camera, this high resolution handheld, whatever it is, did it work? Because it worked in Puerto Vallarta. It should work here too. And it did. So this is out of the camera. I don't have to do any processing. It's like, wow. Okay, it's not, super, you're not going to see deep stuff, but I didn't have to do anything. Like, oh, that's a big bonus. And speaking of bonuses, I had another bonus that some of you have probably seen already that I posted earlier was I was walking in the forest that same night. Instead of turning this direction, I turned the opposite towards Lake Louise Ski Resort at the other end of the valley. And I thought the sky was clear, but over the mountains over there, that looks like a band of clouds. That's very strange. I will take a quick picture. Oh, those aren't clouds. That's an aurora. Like, that's pretty cool. So I took I'll just show you one, but I took like half an hour of aurora pictures that sort of all look the same. So, but I thought, that's pretty cool. The final highlight I want to mention is not really astronomically related, but at 5 in the morning, local time, was the Olympic final game between Canada and the Evil Americans. And so we were glued to our TV. This is in the middle of the lodge at the Alpine Club and Youth Hostel. Everyone's like looking there. And there's only one guy going very quietly, USA, USA. So... but we know what happened to that game. Okay, so that's it for 2 destinations. So Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for a week, and then Lake Louise for a couple of days or a couple of nights. So any conclusions? I said, yeah, if you're thinking of traveling because whether it's light pollution, like my backyard limiting magnitude is at best magnitude 3. I can't see anything fainter than that in my backyard. No way, no way. Sometimes it's 2.5, depending on the neighbors. They have a spotlight. Oh, my new neighbors have a spotlight that's motion detecting. So of course they're far in the other yard, but somehow they can detect when I step outside my backyard. So poof, the lights go on. So when I go to look at the sky, I have to stop moving for a bit. So then I'm sure the magnitude is like 2. So if you're trying to look for dark skies, and maybe that means traveling, although I do recommend Mont Mégantic and Mont Tremblant parks. They were really, really great. Mégantic is very dark. I've been there many times. And you're thinking, well, you're going to take an airline flight and space is tight. So everything I need for my tourist photography or nature or astro and all my regular travel stuff, toiletries, clothes and stuff, fits in that suitcase and the backpack. I take one camera, I take two lenses, a simple tripod, and the wind-up tracker, and it all fits. And I can take, maybe they're not amazing photos, but they're pretty good. I'm happy with them. The night sky, and I just use my camera and I use my cell phone for the flats, and that's it. I've tried my wind-up tracker because I'm very lazy. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing polar alignment, so I just sort of aim so that Polaris is somewhere in the circle. That's good enough. And I'm good for at least 30-second exposures at 150 millimeter focal length. And then the big surprise for me was this built-in feature where I don't have to do anything except push the button, and it's pretty good. So this handheld high resolution. So on that note, I'll finish my vacation stories. And thank you very much for your attention. Again, my name is Russell, and thanks very much, and welcome all your questions.
That was fantastic, Russell. Thank you so much. One question that was already posted to me was to ask you about the cell phone flats
Sure.
as to whether, because it's not a pure white, does that cause anything that you have to adjust for, or?
Yep, that's true. It's not totally white. I'll just get my thing. I'll show you what I use. I've tried 3 or 4. The one that I found that works best, although not perfectly, is something called Lightbox. It's a free app.
Lightbox, okay.
Lightbox, the free app, and it does this. And what you can do is you can change the temperature. You can change the temperature and the brightness. So I just leave it in the middle, and let's take a look.
So it does mimic a black body.
Well, I wouldn't really say that, but it's close enough.
Okay.
So when I look at the histogram, it doesn't look black body. It's very broad. It's not very black body, but to me it's close enough. And for me, the tricky part is getting the exposure of the flats right. So what I've noticed, so if you go and look at YouTubers and they say what you should expose is your flats to half the histogram in the middle.
Okay.
Yep, which it's true. It's nice, even though it's a linear, it's not a lot. Anyways, what I found is I'll get concentric rings because the exposure, the problem is that there's a refresh rate on the electronic screen on your phone. And you have to be careful. You have to make the exposure of your flats long enough so that you don't get the flicker, the refresh rate in there. So it has to be at least maybe 1/10 of a second. And sometimes you have to put a piece of paper over it to make the exposure, because otherwise because your ISO is so high, 1600 or 3200, that maybe it's like 1/100th of a second, and then it's at the middle. It's like, no, that won't work because it's the refresh rate of the screen. You'll have these little stripes and stuff, so it won't be evenly lit. So you have to adjust it that way. But it works. I mean, I've used it for a couple of years now, and I think I've worked out all the tweaks. So if you want to know more, we can talk about it then maybe the next public event or that kind of stuff.
Wonderful. So in the chat, David says he could have given a better talk. Jerry laughs at you for using Lightbox, and Cindy says she's rethinking whether she wants you in the library night. Or maybe it's the opposite of that. I can't read very well today.
Okay. Boy, tough audience. Oh my gosh.
I have, this is so much fun to get to like be in your journey with you, that I figured, you get to do all these wonderful adventures. We have to bring you back down to earth just a little bit, Montreal Nebula, our reality. But everybody's saying excellent talk, and then they all enjoyed. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask Maury to ask his question, and then maybe give a thank you, and we'll stop the live stream, and then we'll just open up to just a general discussion so people can ask you more details.
Okay, good. I just want to mention that for the St. Patrick's Day parade downtown today, I am wearing green. Okay.
Ah, wonderful.
Okay, I just had one question. Your wind-up tracker.
Yep.
What's the actual details on it? What's the payload of it?
So its rated payload is up to 3 kilograms. 3 kilograms. So it's not much, but it's enough for a DSLR and a small telephoto lens.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the brand?
That's called Omegon. Here, I'll put the name on there. I don't know if you can see it. There it is. Omegon.
Gone. Okay. And the
but-
model is Track
It's-
LX.
It's called a MIDI Track LX3, but be careful. I ordered this from Germany because it's a German company.
Ah.
And a couple of people I knew in Germany and Switzerland, oh, you should get this. You should. So I said, okay, I'll buy it. It's not too expensive. But when it came into Canada, it was a $80 customs import duty.
I believe that you can get it from Astronomy Plus.
Oh, that would be better if you could do that from Astronomy Plus.
I think they're a dealer for that.
Oh, that'd be great. I didn't know that. So I ordered it directly from the Germans.
Andy just posted a link as well for it.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so be careful. This only holds a camera and a lens. That's it. Not a small like Red CAD or whatever the ZWO thing. No. And
I think they have a newer model.
I'd have to leave my new camera at home and take my Fuji Pro with a very light lens.
yep, exactly. So more you can't use your Hasselblad.
Oh man. So I guess my 5x7 view camera is out.
Yep, that's right.
You can't use that either.
Can't use it either. No. A Fuji
Oh.
like X-Trans kind of XT4 or something like
That'd
that.
be great,
Yep, that'll be fine.
for bike touring.
Yep, exactly. That's what I just picked one camera for everything.
They showed newer models of that at NEAF a few years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like a tracker, I think, with electronics in it, and
Oh,
you can
okay.
check their website.
Okay, and this has no the only thing this is a tension spring.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
it's got.
Yeah, I know.
I'll have to look at it. Anyways, I'll just thank everybody for being here tonight, or this afternoon rather. I guess having a mini snowstorm is good. We have no excuses for being anywhere else but online. And we're online in Puerto Vallarta, so we're nice and warm. So that's great. I want to thank Michael and Olivia on the Dark Sky presentation and gave us lots to think about. And it's a process to, with dealing with companies, neighbors, governments, more neighbors. Probably the neighbors are the worst ones. But you have to just educate them and when you're out there observing, invite your neighbors. As I say, if you're going to have a party, if you invite your neighbors, they can't call the police. So invite them to observe, and they'll see the light, literally. And Russell, great presentation as always. We always enjoy your presentation.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you. Thanks, Olivia. Thanks, Michael. Great
And
presentation.
thanks, Karim, for
Thanks a lot.
pulling it all together.